Everyone, we're back again, Sally and I, to continue to build all the necessary infrastructure components and build an entire project end to end in an ASP.NET Core and Blazor. And in our last session, we basically, this is with Project Sophie, and in our last session, we basically built, what did we build last time, Sally? Was it the acceptance test? I think that was acceptance test, right? Yep.
Right.
So we built the acceptance test, and this time we're gonna need to build something completely different. We need to build a capability where we can use C sharp. Hear me out on this one because there's a nice story behind this one. We need to build, a project in C sharp that will help us control our build steps. So let's step backwards just a little bit, just so we understand what does this even mean? What does this really entail? So when you're building a project, I'm gonna pull in here the Blackboard and I'm gonna share my screen in a second. Here you go. Da, da, da. Okay, here you go. Then I'm gonna share my screen here. Okay, Sally, can you see my screen?
Now I can.
Okay, perfect. So here's the deal. When you have a project like this, let's say this is your project. This is my project, some API, for instance, whatever the case may be. I wouldn't even put API here. I'll just put there's a project. In order for this project to succeed and you can build the right infrastructure for this project, there's something called DevOps, development operations. Development operations, meaning that, you need to build all the components you need and the processes and routines around your ASP.NET Core project or Blazor project, whatever project you're building, to ensure that there's a pipeline in place that manages, the redundant work for you, like running the test. Like, remember how when we added in these workflows and we said, okay, every time a new PR is opened, we want to make sure that the PR that is being merged in, we have all the tests passing before we allow this PR to be merged into our master branch, right? It's the same thing
Right.
here with us. We want to be able to go and say, okay, assume that this project is just living on your local machine. Number one step, we want to push this to source control. Source control. Source control is where we save our code, right? Where our code goes. In our case here, what is the source control that we're using? We're using GitHub to save our code. This one is already done. We already have GitHub. We don't have to do anything. So every time I push my code like this, anybody in the world, anybody out there can see my code and can pull that code, whether they are on my team or whatever the case may be, and they can get a copy of that code that I have on my machine, right? So this is the first step, to be able to establish a project, a source control, to basically save that code in there. And then the next step is to be able to go and say, I have a step in here where I need to describe the build steps. This is called build steps. What is this build steps? This is me running tests, building artifacts, making sure that my project is in a healthy state, okay, before I deploy that project anywhere or merge that project anywhere. And then the last step here is to be able to go and say, I got the build, I need to do what? Provision and deployment. So there's provision in here, that's one. And then there's another one in here that's called deployment, like this. And actually, to be honest with you, I'll do it this way because that's much better. So this is provision, and then I'm gonna go here and say deployment. So in here called, or release rather, release. Okay, all right. If any of these steps already exist, it basically gets skipped, right? Like if the code is already there, you don't have to go through that code. You start from the build step and provision and release, right? This one here is really important though. So you got source control, you're doing a build, you're provisioning instances in the cloud so you can deploy these things in the cloud so people can use your system everywhere in the world, right? And then, the release here is to take that build step and put it in these components, right? The build, you're building, you're provisioning, and then you're releasing and deploying that in these components. Today, we're going to talk about this one here, Sally. This build steps. How do I simply and easily, describe the steps that needs to be taken to ensure that my project is being built, the NuGet packages are being restored, the tests are being run, and all that kind of good stuff. So if you look today, there's a problem today, right? If you look at how the world works today, you will see something called these, DevOps kind of YAML steps. Like if you go to OSSS, for instance, and you go, let's go to Sophie and see this high level first. If I go here into Project Sophie, and if you look at Sophie Core, and if you go here, we have these things called workflows, right? But this workflow is described in a language that is very foreign. This is not C sharp, right? It takes a little bit to understand, okay, what is this .NET Action V1? How do I know how many versions are available? How do I know what versions are available here? All these other steps, simple steps, what's out there? This says Windows 2019. How do I know what if I want to run it on Linux? What if I want to run it whatever I want to run it, targeting the branches? This seems like a very hard thing to understand, rather remember. And it's inconvenient experience for the engineers from an engineering experience perspective. It's very, very inconvenient, in terms of, being able to be for engineers to know it off the top of your head. If every time you have to go and do some build steps, you have to go running around looking at documentation and learning a completely different language like YAML to make this happen, there's probably something wrong that we can do about it. So what did I do a while back? A while back, I went there and I said, okay, I can do something about this. I'm going to go build a library that allows people to write code in C sharp, and this C sharp code will get translated into YAML, right? So I called it A.NET, right? This is the project. And what the project does basically, you can go here and basically say, I want to write C sharp code. I need a .NET execution task that has a command and feeds to use and all that. And it turns that into YAML code. So this way, people don't have to learn a new language. They don't have to learn anything at all, right? They already are familiar with C sharp. So all they have to do is just pick up, the library and build the steps they need, to basically, create their library and create their components and all that kind of good stuff. So as you can see here, there is one for ADO, and then Cherie came in and she helped me out with the Git actions. So we
Mm-hmm.
basically build all the Git actions. So there's build step, checkout, setup.net, restore task, build task, and then test task. See how easy that is? Much simpler, much easier to know because there's a lot of autocomplete that will happen here that will make things much, much easier. You don't even need to know this is just naming things. You don't even need to name it in one way or another. And today you and I are going to try to do exactly that. We're going to go and create what I call a build project. A build project. And this build project will generate the YAML components we need in order for us to basically describe these steps. So today, our job basically is to make sure that this guy is done. Tomorrow we do the provision. Actually, tomorrow's Friday. So Monday, we do the provision. And then the day after, we do the release. And I'm going to show you every single step of the way. Once all of these go green, like we already have the project in place, this is the stuff that I'm showing you right here is the foundations that any software engineer out there needs to know to be able to spin up their own product. I don't look at it as, oh, this is enough for me to go. Nope. I want to show you all of these steps so you can build your own software from scratch. Lucky for us, we're recording this, so anybody who's watching this will be able to do the same thing. Does that make sense? Do we have a
Right.
deal? Okay, so how do we start? I'm gonna go up in here and I'm gonna go and say, okay, I have these projects in here. I have unit tests. Let me increase this font in here so just people that are on their phone can see what we're talking about. So let's go here, 175. Let's go here. And let's start with this. Let's go here and let's just say, okay, so I'm gonna go to the master branch or main branch and let me sync up real quick. Here we go. And then we can go up in here and say, okay, so this is what we have here. We have the API, we built the API project, we built the test project. Let's start building the rest of the stuff. So I'm gonna go here and create a new project. This project is gonna be a very simple console application, just a very, very simple console app. And this console app will trigger and run all the steps that we need to basically be able to run our build steps. So I'm gonna go up in here and say, what's our project called? So Sophie core API infrastructure, right? Build. Cool. So these are build steps. And then I can go in here and just click create. Does that make sense? So far, so good, right? There's nothing here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what is the next step for us? The next step for us to go and pull in this library, this, ADotNet library. So we're able to go and pull this in. I'm going to go and say ADotNet like this. Here's ADotNet. And then I'm going to install this library here. We have version 2.0.3, which has the latest and greatest version of Windows installed on our system. Okay. All right. So this is the next step. What's the third step? The third step is to start building the pipeline. Okay. And the pipeline is basically us going and saying, okay, I want to build all the steps that I need. So let's just start with this. So what do I need really? Let me first disable this whole, let's start this way. So in here, I want to go and say var GitHub pipeline. I want to start a new GitHub pipeline, just like this. Check this out. That's my pipeline. Okay, inside that pipeline, there are requirements. There are things that I need to do inside that pipeline, right? What do I need to do? I need to give that pipeline a name, for instance, right? It can be anything really, right? I'm not just gonna say, SFEE or build pipeline. Okay, and then after that, I'm gonna start adding in the events that I care about, right? The events that I care about to basically build that pipeline. So there's a pipeline and there's a bunch of events that need to happen in that pipeline. Number one, the first thing I want to care about is, what are, excuse me, what are the branches that I need to start the build process for anytime a pull request. So when someone opens up a pull request against my branch, so which branch would that be? It would be the master branch. So anytime someone creates a pull request against the master branch, I need to kick off a build. Why? Because I want to make sure that, no code gets merged in unless I am 100% sure that this code has passed in the tests. Okay? All right. The second thing is every time some code gets merged in, or I need to kind of run what if someone pushes code straight to master? Okay. We need to still kick off the build pipeline so we know the status of so we need to kick off the build status again. Okay. So for instance, let's say someone didn't create a pull request, someone pushed the code directly to the master branch. We need to make sure that we kick off that build, right? So I'm just gonna go here and say if someone on the event that someone pushed straight, right? Someone pushed straight to the master branch, kick off the build again so we know the status. Here we go, like this, and I'm gonna go and say master. So this way we set up what events this system needs to trigger on. This pipeline will kick off if and only if, right, this project, if and only if, these events happen. So if anyone opens up any branch against any other branch, we don't care. We're not going to spin up our wheels over it. That's the first part. Okay, so this is the events part. Great. Let's go to the next thing. Now there's a bunch of tasks. They call them jobs, right? Let's go here and create jobs, right? And let's go here and start saying, okay, what do I need to kick off a build process, right? I need a build job. So here's build. This is a build job. And inside that build job, I need to pick up what operating system I need to run on. So I'm going to go here and say build machines. And then here, it's going to tell me what options I have. So I don't have to think about, what options I have here. So I'm going to go with Windows 2022. Okay, now I'm running on Windows 2022. This is the instance that will run this build. It's not your own machine. It's just the agent or the instance that will be able to pick up this build and run with it. Okay, now what are other build steps that I need to make in here to make this work, right? So I can go here and say a new list of GitHub task. So it's a bunch of tasks, bunch of steps. And here we need to think about, okay, what do I need to do to actually have a successful build? Well, first of all, I need to check out the code. I need to get, so imagine like you have a brand new virtual machine, new computer, right? We already selected, we said, spin up this new computer every time new code is opened against the master branch. Okay, we did that part. And then this new computer needs to have Windows 2022 to run my code.
Mhm.
Perfect. We have that in place. Now, the next thing now is that I need to pull that code in so I can build it because we can't build code that we don't have on our machine, right? So let's start with that. Let's go here and say, okay, new, right? And then check out task. This is me checking out the code. And I'm just going to call it checking out code. Cool. So that's me pulling in the code in that machine. That makes sense. So this is, I built a machine. I said at these events, build a machine that's Windows 22, and inside that machine, pull the code in from that master branch. Cool.
Mhm.
Now I need to specify what .NET version I need to use to be able to run my code. Let's do in here and say, okay, I need to use a .NET version. Say I don't even remember the actual task name. I just know I need to do something, right?
Mhm.
So what is it that I'm trying to do here? I already checked up my code. I think it's set up .NET task, something like this. There it is. Set up .NET task. Okay, so in here we'll be installing .NET. I want to install .NET on this machine so I can build the code. And you can switch those, like you can switch those over.
Mhm.
Like installing the .NET can happen before you check out the code or the other way around. Now, I'm targeting a specific version, right? So I'm going to go here and say target .NET version since we are using a not yet released, officially released version. I can here specify what version I want, and I want to tell this, I want to target include pre-release. So where do I find the .NET version, Sally? Like, where do you find that stuff? Um, if you go into the internet and you just go into, if you just type in there .NET, not .NET, .NET, you go here and you go to download, and if you look at the versions, let's see here, go back here, let's just say .NET 6. Like this. Do you see? This is the latest release, and this is the version. That's the name of that version in here for that .NET version. Look, this is .NET 6.0 release candidate 2, and I'm picking
Mhm.
up that version here. Okay, let's go back here and let's go and say I want to get that last version. Let's put that here and let's say this is the version I want. Perfect. So that's the .NET version. This one is done. Now, what else do we need to do next? I installed the .NET version. I pulled in the code. I want to restore all the NuGet packages in my project. So let's do restore task. I need, when you have a project, you have a bunch of NuGet packages like dependencies. Like in here, see, we have RESTful Sense, Swashbuckle, ASP.NET. In this acceptances, you have a dependency like, in here you have Microsoft.NET Task, RESTful Sense, XUnit, Fluent Assertions. We want to pull these libraries before we start building. Otherwise, it won't work, right? So let's just give it
Right.
a name. It already does the magic. We're just going to go and say restoring NuGet packages. Cool. And then the next step, now that I'm restoring NuGet packages, now I'm ready to start doing a build. I can go now and say .NET build task, and I'm
Mhm.
going to go and say building project. Project is done and it's built. Now I can run my tests. So I can go here and say test task, and this is name, and then here running tests. That's it. So let's reimagine this. Again, I created a pipeline. I said on the events that I'm opening a new pull request against the master branch, or someone pushed the code straight to the master branch, trigger that event. What is the event that needs to happen? I'm creating a virtual machine that's Windows 22, and then I'm pulling down the code installing .NET, restoring the packages, running the build, and then running the tests. There will be other steps down the road where we go and create something called the artifact. And this artifact is what we need to use to deploy to Azure Virtual Machine so our code can run in the cloud. But that's a story for another day. Okay, for now, I'm just going to put a header in here on this file here, just a simple header. And then the last thing I want to do is that I want to generate the YAML file, right? So I built this entire nice pipeline in here, but I want to generate the YAML file that will take this code and actually process it, right?
YAML?
Yeah,
New
yeah,
word. What's that? I said it's a new word for me.
right, right.
Uh,
That's right.
YAML.
YAML and yep, exactly. Yeah. So so I want to take this C# code that I built here and I want to turn this into YAML. How do I go about doing something like that? I'm gonna go here and say, client, here's my client to build this. I'm gonna go and say new A.NET client. A.NET is the library that we're working with here. So this is A.NET client. Oops.
Right.
Let's see, did it actually pull the right one? No, it did not. Hold on.
How did you
This
notice it didn't pull the right one?
because it created a new file instead of actually doing the right
Oh,
job. So let's go here and let's say A.NET client. Let's go here. So this is my client. This is my client. And now my client just needs to take that C# code and turn it into YAML. I'm gonna go and serialize, right? And this GitHub pipeline, right? And then I want to find the location of where this file. Usually, if we're doing this right, I think it will be 2 steps down. So I'm going up from the build like this. I think I'm doing this right. So it's like 4, and then you do GitHub. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then .github. Right? This is this flow. If I switch over to this, I want to reach to this folder here. Let me show you. Do you see this .github/workflows? That's the guy I want to get to. So
mm-hmm.
workflows /.net.yaml, like this. There you
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What is the path? Okay, let's do it this way then. I'm gonna make it pretty. So this is here, and this guy takes in ADO pipeline. We should rename this to just pipeline, and then this is path. Okay, so these are the 2 parameters. I'm saying take this C# code that's easy to understand and turn it into YAML so GitHub can understand it. Let's see if that works. Let's switch over to the actual solution view, and I'm gonna select this build infrastructure project as the project. And then I'm gonna run this just as very simple console app that I'm running. And if this file changes, hopefully it will find the right location. If you look at the changed files in here, so let me just, Visual
Mm-hmm.
Studio froze on me for a second there. There it is. Oh, it did change the right one. See, it basically said the changes that you've made have made these changes. See, so
Yeah.
it said, oh, it's Windows
Mm-hmm.
2022, it's master branch, all of these different things. I think we're good to go. Let's create a new branch here and let's say users, Hassan Habib, infra, initialize, build
Mm-hmm.
project.
So YAML was the one that the language was kind of not C sharp, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Okay.
just so you understand what's happening
Mm-hmm.
here is that GitHub doesn't understand the C# code that we are speaking. It doesn't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So this is GitHub. This is GitHub pipeline. It doesn't understand anything other than YAML, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wants YAML to go in
Mm-hmm.
the pipeline, but we don't want to use YAML. So it wants to do
Right.
YAML in here, right? So we went and built this library called get A.NET, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
is A.NET. Right? And A.NET basically turns C# into YAML. So it takes C# code. I can write C# code here and turns that C# code into YAML, and then the YAML code gets turned into GitHub pipeline. So you start from a C# file and you end up with a YAML file,
I see.
which is literally what happened here in
Mm.
a matter of minutes. Like if you go back here, this is exactly what we did here. We went here and we said, I'm gonna write this C# code here, and every
Mm.
single step I'm gonna make here, it's gonna turn it into YAML, so I don't have to deal with YAML.
And like
Okay, so I'm gonna go here and say infra and then initialize infrastructure build pipeline. Actually, initializing build pipeline. That's it. It's initializing the build pipeline. So I'm just gonna go ahead and push that guy. And now we need to test it. We need to know that it actually works, right? So let's go down to GitHub and create a pull request and see if our stuff is actually gonna work, Sally. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to SFEE core. I'm gonna create this pull request. Initialize build pipeline. I want to make sure everything looks good. Restoring NuGet packages, .NET restore, and then a bunch of gobbledygook. And then at the very end here, there's the build and all that good stuff. Great. Let's create that pull request. So now this guy is going to trigger, you know, since I changed the YAML file, it's going to look at that YAML file and try to run the build. If we give it just a moment, it should get started very shortly. Let's see here. Or is it because, okay, add more commits pushing users. Okay, I'm gonna do a merge in here that will initialize this guy. And then a build process should start here shortly. GitHub flows now. Let's see what happened. Where's my actions? There it is. Do you see the SFEE core build
mm-hmm.
pipe? That's the one that we built, right? And then we can go here and say, I just want to kick it off. I want to see actions. See if we can kick that guy off. This is, let's see, this is the commit SFEE core build pipeline. Oh, did it really run that fast? Really? No way. Okay, let me rerun the job. Let's rerun the job and let's see. There's a new job. You will notice now that the names of the tasks that we created are matching the task that we have selected. Look, restore. No, that's not it. Hold on. Run checkout. Set up job. Just a second there. Let's see. Build test, post run actions, and checkout. Second there. Let's see. I think I did commit the right stuff. This is the actions. Let's see, what version of Windows is this guy running? No, this is the old pipeline.
No.
I don't, yeah, this is not
Mm-hmm.
the one I want. I want the other one. Let's see here. This is this guy here. Okay, disable workflow. No, that's not what I want. Ah, do you know why it didn't start? We made a little mistake. This guy doesn't have master branch. It has main branch, right?
Oh, I see.
So let's go here. Let's go back to our code here and do that fix. We need to go back into master branch. See, that's something I missed. So let's go down here. So I forgot that one. So this is why it's not doing anything. Okay, so let's go, and that's why it ran really fast, because there's no master branch. And like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. So let's change this to main. So this is main, and this is main. And let's create a new branch here and say users, Hassan, Habib, code rub, switch, master to main. Here we go. And now I can go and say code rub like this, code rub, switch, master to main. Then let's go here and click push, and let's go back to GitHub real quick. Here it is. This is the most important thing, Sally. You got to think on your feet. If I can't say
Mm-hmm.
anything about software engineering, I can tell you this for sure. It's mostly about being able to detect, issues and think on your feet and be able to tell differences right away as soon as you see
Mm-hmm.
something that is not quite there. Okay, so let me merge this one in and let's go into Sophie Core. Let's go back to the actions, right? And let's go to this guy. And let's see here if I can rerun the jobs and see if that works. This is the new job. There might be another thing that we need to do. We'll see. Still not there, right? It's not exactly the. So let's see what operating system are we getting here? This is how we're gonna tell. If it says
Mm-hmm.
Windows 2022, then we're in the right place, right? So okay, so this guy is still not seeing my stuff. This is .NET YAML. Oh, look, it didn't even, I see. Oh, I forgot to build.
Yeah, I
I
was.
forgot I forgot to generate the YAML file, right? Let's go back. We need to fix it. Let's go back here. Let's do this. Let's go back to the master branch. And let's do this. I still need to run this project in order for it to actually change the YAML file, right? That's another mistake. So let's do this. Okay, now the YAML file hopefully has changed. Let's pick up the changes here. Come on, pick it up. Something has changed.
But it was interesting because sometimes, you didn't basically save it. It should say, it's not updated, something like that, or there's no change because you already
Well,
create that one.
yeah, it updated the code, but
Mm-hmm.
this is here. Yeah, this is here. Code rub, generate main. Generate YAML or main, right? So I'm gonna go here and push this, and let's see if this guy can actually give us the right build that we need. I didn't create a branch for this one, but that's okay. So now look, now it's detecting it. Do you see this build? Now, if I
Yeah,
go into this build now, check what's gonna happen. It's gonna start saying the names of the things that we care about. Check this out. See, checking out code, installing .NET, restoring NuGet
I
packages,
see.
building
Mm-hmm.
project, running tests, all of that. See? Now we're controlling this with C#. We're building C# code that generates code, and the code basically, see now it says main and all that good stuff that we have. So that's what that's the fourth project, that we initialize here. Do you have any questions for these things at all? Anything at all?
No, this is good. This is straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
The next one would be provision, right?
Yeah, the next one is going to be the interesting one. We're going to do it next week. So that basically means that if I go back here into our map in here, that basically unlocks this node. The next
Mm-hmm.
one here for us would be this guy. Technically this guy and then this guy. So we have two steps, one for releasing into the environment. So I want to deploy my code so other people can use it, right? And this one here is in order for me to deploy my code, I need to create Azure instances to be able to control that. I am excited for this one and this one because this one is lost art. People don't talk much about that. So we'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about that next time. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Cool.
that's
All
perfect.
right. Awesome.
Anytime.
Awesome. All right. So I will connect with you next week. Thank you guys for watching, following up on our
Thank
sessions, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you,
Take care.
Hassan. Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Take care. Bye.